Hi there and welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on this field-grown Trident maple. I'm performing this work in the South African summer. I've been developing trunks in the field now for at least 15 years and I hope to share some of what I've learned with you in this video. Previous work on this tree is detailed in other videos which I will link to now on your screen. If you find the following content helpful, then you can thank me by clicking the thanks button just below the video. As mentioned already, I'm performing this work in our summer in South Africa, but if you are looking for a lot of backbudding, then the best time of the year to do extensive pruning is actually in the autumn. However, when you have the problem of having too many trees that you need to work on in autumn, you need to spread the load a little bit, and so I'm doing it a bit early. After posting the previous videos that I did featuring this tree, especially the one where it was originally collected and the roots were worked on, I've had a number of comments since then on whether the tree has ended up on the burn pile. So I'm very happy today to post an update on this tree and to show you that it is actually doing very well indeed. Just another comment directed to those that were concerned about the health of the tree and the extensive work that I had done on it. You have to bear in mind that the tree was extremely strong and healthy as it had been growing in the field for quite a few years, and that is why the tree allowed me to do the extensive work which I did on it very safely. In the last video where this tree was featured, I did a bunch of thread grafts on it, and so let's firstly quickly go through these. It's clear that this one was one of those that didn't make it, and so I can go ahead and just trim that off. You can see by the swelling at the base of the branch that this one did take. Another successful thread graft. Another one which didn't make it, and so I'm going to remove that with a branch cutter. Overall, with the thread grafts, I had more success than failures this time. It does, however, strengthen the argument of doing multiple or more than the thread grafts that you think you're going to need, because not all of them are likely to be successful. One of the grafts that I was ecstatic about that took is this one. Here, the approach graft technique was used and not thread grafting. The objective was to halve the size of the scar, because this callus can actually form in a quicker manner now, and also then get additional branches in this area, because of course branches do not form on callus tissue. To help catalyze the healing process, I like to score the edge of the existing wound and expose the green cambium below the bark. I find that this little ginning tool works fabulously for the task, but you can use, once again, a blade or a grafting knife. Anything sharp will be able to scrape off the bark. Once you're done exposing the cambium, it's important that you seal this exposed tissue. Here you can see me applying top gin sealer using a brush, and it's important also that you cover the dead wood, because you want to prevent that from rotting, as rotten wood is not a sound base for callus to form over, hence it will not heal. If you're going to need to seal a lot of cuts, it's best to have a little bit of water in a container nearby so that you can drop the brush in there and keep it moist. This branch was probably developed in the field and had to be cut back. I allowed the branch to die back, and I've now just removed the stub. However, this little bridge of bark is not sufficient to cause callus around it, so it's going to be best to make this one wound. It's then advisable to clean up the edges of the cut and make sure that that plant tissue is cut very cleanly using a very sharp blade, a grafting knife, or other such similar implement. When you're done, it's advisable to seal immediately. If you're going to be doing a fair amount of branch selection, then it's quite important that you can actually see the structure of the tree, and in order to do that, it's best to remove some of the leaves, and that is what I'm going to do on some of the branches using a defoliation shears. If you do not plan on trimming the branch back, be sure to leave the tip of the branch intact so that it can continue extending. I also like to trim off any growth that develops on the sides of the main structural portion or branch, and this focuses all the energy and the auxins or hormones into the tip so that extension can take place. Extension causes thickening at the base of the branch. This is an example of such a completed branch. It's very important at this very early structural phase of development to get the branch angles correct. Ideally, branches, certainly in the lower parts of the tree, should have a slightly downward angle as they emerge from the trunk, and clearly this one, moving in a very vertical fashion, will need to be eliminated. I will also be applying some wire to the branches. It's useful in a case like this when you want to bend a branch up to have a section of wire going to the bottom, which acts almost like an anchor point and allows you to bend the branch up without having to connect the wire onto another branch. These two branches are close enough to one another for me to anchor both using the same or common wire. I like to end my wiring with a loop underneath the branch so that it gives the tip support, as well as it's bent back on itself so that this end of the wire is not going to hook onto your shirt or jersey or some other piece of clothing. If your trunk doesn't have dramatic bends, then your branches should not either. However, as these structural branches are going to thicken up tremendously over the years, it's important to exaggerate those bends slightly to allow for that. Here I have a branch which I want to bend down, and so that little wire tab that I showed you earlier is now above the branch, moving to the top. When placing bends in the branch, always try to put the bend on the inside of a curve of wire so that the wire supports the branch and the bend. Where you have stubs like this occurring at a point where you want to wire a branch, rather leave the stub for now until the wire has set the branch in the new position, as removing the stub is going to weaken the branch, and then when you bend it, it's very likely to snap. It's in the Trident maple's growing habit to push out a number of buds all at the same point. If all of them are allowed to develop, they will thicken up in no time. As these have been allowed to grow unchecked, they are just too thick for this portion of the tree or area of the tree, and so I'm going to have to eliminate the thicker branches in favor for one that is a lot more slender. The branch that I've chosen to keep is not only thinner, but it's also easier to bend and is at a better angle. The next area I need to focus on is this old trunk chop. As you can see, the sap has receded and has established a new sap line or flow, and we're left with some dead wood tissue. Seen from a different angle, this same area you can see is very proud of the surrounding material and will need to be reduced. I plan to use a carving bit to remove this material, and before I do so, I just need to clear the area of branches immediately adjacent to where I'll be working. I like to use the nibbler range of bits, and in this particular case I'm using the 6mm R, which fits into my die grinder. When carving a large area like this, which you intend to heal over, it's important that you don't make the area too hollow. Ideally, the resulting callus tissue should form such that the level of the callus is flush or level with the surrounding plant material. The final area now to focus on is the apex and establishing a new trunk line. As you can see, the existing apex consists of a bunch of branches which grew as a result of the trunk chop that was made in this area. Most of these should now be eliminated. And now once again I'm going to use my nibbler bit to shape this area. Remember that your branch angles need to change as you move from the bottom of the tree to the apex. So your branch angles in the lower part of the tree will be in a slightly downward fashion or angle. And then as you move into the apex, it's going to be more vertical. If you found that content helpful and you'd like to thank me for it, please do so now by clicking the thanks button just below the video. And that brings us to the end of today's video and workshop on this tree. As a lot of foliage has been reduced or removed from the tree, I'm going to place it in a shaded spot because after all it is in a middle part of our summer. The next growth spurt on the species in my climate is going to be in around autumn, and so I'll need to watch out for wire bite at that time. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video and that you've gained some new knowledge and information. If you do have comments, please do make them below, and I make it a habit to answer them as quickly as I possibly can.